Hello everyone and welcome to CSCI 215 Programming and Alice. You have the sticker here. This was used in World War II due to gas rationing. Now this applied to World War II, and you may have asked the same question when you were coming to college. Number one, when you loaded up your car up to come here, and number two, when the alarm went off this morning to go to class. I will talk about this question for CSU and for CSI 215. Okay, first of all, is this trip really necessary in the sense of Charleston Southern? Charleston Southern University is a Christian liberal arts university. Now, one of the debates, particularly with IT, is whether you need training or whether you need education. There is a lot of people in IT that says, never mind going to get a computer science degree, just go get your certs. Well, what I have found is eventually there's a glass ceiling you hit, because while you may know all there is to know about setting up a switch, do you necessarily know how to prepare a paper for the big boss? Okay, then there's where we come to the notion of a liberal arts university with a liberal arts core. Turns out over the years, the skill I used the most that I learned in school was writing. And as you well know, that's part of the liberal arts core that is taught here at CSU. The idea of a liberal arts education is kind of like the idea that Robert Fulghum said back in a number of years ago in his book called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. He said live a balanced life, and he said learn a little, think some, and draw, etc., and so on. And so the idea of a liberal arts university education is it's not training you for a particular job, it's preparing you for many. Okay, CSU is a Christian liberal arts university, and as such, it doesn't mind talking about ethics. The role of ethics in the workplace is they can't really help you, but they certainly can hurt you. I've seen a lot of careers ended due to ethics more than I have due to technical competence. The nice thing about getting a formal education at a place like CSU is it gives you time to pause to reflect, and two times to do that, or when you're first starting out your career, or when you're at a crossroads and you're about to move up to higher responsibilities and higher authority. It's good to say, how did I get here? Where am I going? There was a commercial a number of years ago, and it was about life insurance. It says life comes at you fast, you need to be prepared. Well, ethics questions comes at you fast. You may walk into a room and suddenly you're presented with one. It's good to know what you think about, what you believe beforehand. Okay, so how about this particular course? Is this particular course really necessary? And the course is called Programming and Alice. So why learn programming specifically, says most of you are not going to be programmers? Well, programming, you have a process and you have a product. Many of you are familiar with the product of programming. You're familiar with computer programs. Maybe you're not quite so familiar with the process. You say, why do I need to know about the process if I just sit there and turn on the computer and it does what it does? Well, I would submit that everybody needs to know about programming the process. Of course, a programmer needs to do that because it's his job. His manager needs to know that so he can anticipate where the log breaks, the jams are, and where the breakdowns are, and he prevent them. Now, as a customer, you need to understand the process in order to bring on board new IT. For example, for the college, we are upgrading our Blackboard from original to Ultra. Now, having been personally involved as a developer and as a system administrator in upgrades, I knew how much that was involved with that, so I got in on the ground floor, and I'm already starting to do that. That's why we have this particular course in Ultra. As a consumer or a customer, you need to understand that you don't just, when they talk about a turnkey solution, the idea is you just turn a key and then all of a sudden a new solution is there, and everything's wonderful and there's all sorts of new capabilities and all that. That just doesn't happen. So if you understand the process, you can understand how to minimize the pain and maximize the benefit. Also, some of you might be CEOs or other high honchos, and you need to know that when those programmers are working for it, they say, don't worry, sir, we don't need to test this. You need to say, no, you need to go test it. I know because I've programmed before. So that's why program. Why use Alice? Well, that's also a fair question. I'm going to do a little something off camera here to see if it works. Then I'll come back to here while it's spinning up. Alice is very, very visual. And that makes it easier for people who maybe are not familiar with programs, that instead of sitting there and trying to visualize an 8 by 10 matrix in which you plotted a Fibonacci series, you're dealing with something like this. Okay, so, and this is actually your first program you'll run, and let's play it. Okay, that didn't mean much to you because it was off screen. Let's try this again. All right, it's not going to get you an Emmy or anything, but this is a good start. So, and now this is very visual, but what really surprised me about Alice is it's surprisingly sophisticated. I thought this was more or less a toy that real program is done with text editors. Well, there is a program process called a type called object-oriented programming. This is basically what you're learning with Alice, and should you decide to continue on with programming, you'll actually have a whole course on object-oriented programming, and you'll already have a leg up, no pun intended, because you'll have worked with an object-oriented programming language. Then you're saying, well, what if I don't like programming? Well, if you don't like programming, may well be that God does not want you to be a programmer. I'm going to respect that. I'm very glad that there are people that like programming. I'm glad there are people that like childcare. I'm glad there are people like cutting hair. Glad there are people like, a number of other things that I'm not particularly good at. So, even if you do not like programming, there are some applications for this course for you, and naturally, I don't mind talking about it, so I have a whole nother slide on those. Good news is this is about the last slide of this presentation. Okay, applications of this course. Okay, first of all, I have a different levels of application, level 3 being the lowest, as I can teach you about programming. If you're going to program, you'll learn a lot about it, and it'll help you should you decide to go on and program. If you end up having programmers work for you for some reason, it will also help you understand that. You'll understand the product, you'll understand what a program looks like. It's an executable file and this, that, and the other, and it has to have something that opens it. You'll also understand the process that goes through it, that there's a process where you plan it out and then you program it, and then you test it, and then you test it again, and then when it finally gets done with what you think it's going to get done with, you test it one more time. The second level, the higher level of what I can teach you about, is technology in the workplace. Whether or not you'll actually program, you will deal with technology in the workplace. There is a thing called a information technology product cycle, an IT product cycle, and you will go through a small part of that when you do your program. You'll plan your program out, you'll test it, you'll turn it into me, you'll get it graded, you'll get feedback on it. I allow you to correct things, so you'll also get that part of it. And understanding that product cycle is important whether or not you're actually making the product or you're a consumer and you're consuming the product. You'll also understand the limitations of IT, because there will be some things that it seems like you can do with Alice, but you just can't for whatever reason. You'll understand the nuts and bolts of how that works. And hopefully when you do that, you'll be able to tell that if your IT people are telling you they can't do something, you can be telling whether they're just trying to snow you or whether they're actually serious. The highest level of application that I hope to do in this course is technology in life. This is how to better use technology in your life. Okay, for example, troubleshooting. When you write your program, most of the time it's not going to work the first time through, and you'll have to sit there and figure out why it's not working and fix it. Well, to a certain degree, troubleshooting IT problems is troubleshooting IT problems. You'll use much the same process. Also, troubleshooting processes with anything that's mechanical works pretty much the same way. So this is a life skill that I hope to help you enhance is troubleshooting. Now the other thing is called the IKEA factor. that in programming you learn to follow a long and complicated series of instructions that can help you. For example, I just got a home gym. This home gym has hundreds and hundreds of parts of it, and it has got 52 pages of instructions. I originally looked at it in the 7 boxes it came in. It wasn't even assembled. Some assembly required, you know, the IKEA factor. I looked at those boxes and says, I don't want to try to put this together, so I asked somebody how much they charged to put it together. They said $560. I said fair enough, but about the second or third time that they backed off of me, I said, well, let's see if I can do it myself. Well, it took me 2 days, and I ended up saving $560. So, the application to this course, what I hope you get out of it is I hope you learn a little bit about programming, and maybe I hope you learn a little more about how technology is going to work in your workplace. And the thing that I hope the most is I hope that you can better use technology in your life. Well, enough for the applications of this course and enough for the introduction to this course. The next video will get into more specifics.